Rain hammers the pavement like 1,000 desperate fists as Suzan Harris stumbles through the storm, her maroon scrubs clinging to her skin, her pink nurse's cap plastered to her forehead. 48 hours. That's how long she's been awake, stitching knife wounds and pumping chests back to life in the ER. Her vision blurs. Her knees buckle. Then, salvation. A sleek black sedan idles at the curb, hazard lights cutting through the downpour like twin beacons of mercy. She doesn't think. She yanks the door open, throws herself into the leather-scented warmth of the back seat, and gasps out her address before her body surrenders completely. "Just get me home," she breathes, her pink backpack clutched to her chest like a lifeline. Her head drops. Not onto the headrest. Onto a shoulder. A shoulder that belongs to a man whose name is whispered in back alleys and boardrooms alike. Do-won Kang, the phantom king of Seoul's underworld, a man who has orchestrated empires from the shadows and left no trail but fear. He doesn't move. Doesn't push her away. His right hand hovers near his mouth, fingers pressed together in silent calculation as he watches the rain-slicked streets through narrowed eyes. A police checkpoint materializes ahead, officers waving down vehicles with flashlights that slice through the storm. Do-won's jaw tightens. His hand drops to his lap. He glances once at the sleeping woman using him as a pillow, her breath soft and steady, her fingers curled protectively around that ridiculous pink bag. The officer leans into his window. Do-won tilts his head slightly, letting the nurse's cap graze his collar. He doesn't smile. He doesn't need to. The tableau is perfect, a tired businessman bringing his exhausted nurse girlfriend home from her shift. The officer waves them through. Her name is Suzan Harris, and she saves lives for a living. 29 years old, 4 years into her nursing career at Mercy General Hospital, and already burning out from double shifts that bleed into triple shifts. She has a hero complex she refuses to acknowledge, a compulsion to help even when it costs her sleep, her health, her sanity. Tonight, exhaustion finally won. His name is Do-won Kang, though most who know it never say it aloud. 34 years old, inheritor of a criminal empire he never wanted but now controls with surgical precision. He survives by reading people, by staying 3 moves ahead, by never letting anyone close enough to see the cracks in his armor. Tonight, he was returning from a meeting that could have ended in bloodshed. Instead, it ended with a nurse in maroon scrubs unconscious against his shoulder. The contrast is immediate and absolute. Her profession heals, his destroys. She works under fluorescent lights in sterile hallways. He operates in smoke-filled rooms where deals are sealed with threats. She believes in second chances. He's made a career of ensuring there are no third ones. But tonight, in the rain-soaked darkness of his sedan, with red and blue lights flashing past and her soft breathing filling the silence, something shifts. Do-won doesn't know it yet, but he recognized her the moment she fell into his car. 3 months ago, she treated his mother in the ICU with a kindness no amount of money could buy, holding her hand during the painful procedures, staying past her shift to ensure she wasn't alone. His mother mentioned the angel in maroon before she passed. He's been watching Suzan ever since. Not as a threat, as a debt. And Do-won Kang always pays his debts. Subscribe to see how this unfolds and comment where you're watching from. I will love to say hello to you just to know how far our story is going. The checkpoint materializes through sheets of rain like a ghost. 3 patrol cars, their lights painting the wet asphalt in streaks of red and blue. Do-won's driver, Min-jun, doesn't brake hard enough to seem nervous, doesn't maintain speed long enough to seem defiant. The sedan glides to a stop with the practiced ease of innocence. Do-won shifts almost imperceptibly, angling his body so Suzan's sleeping form settles more naturally against him. Her pink nurse's cap has slipped slightly, revealing tight curls that frame her face. Her breath is steady, deep, the sleep of someone who hasn't rested in days. The pink backpack on her lap rises and falls with each breath. An officer approaches, flashlight beam cutting through the rain-streaked window. Minjun lowers it halfway. Cool air and the smell of wet pavement flood the car. Evening, the officer says, bending to peer inside. His eyes sweep the interior, Minjun in his simple black suit, Do-won in his white button-down, and the exhausted nurse using the well-dressed man as a pillow. "Sir." Do-won's voice is quiet, respectful, tinged with just enough concern. "My girlfriend just finished a double shift at Mercy General. I'm taking her home." The officer's flashlight lingers on Suzan's maroon scrubs, the hospital ID badge clipped to her chest pocket, the exhaustion etched into her features even in sleep. His expression softens. "Long night for her, huh?" "Every night is long." Do-won allows the faintest smile, not friendly, just weary solidarity. "She's a trauma nurse. My sister's a nurse. I know what that's like." The officer straightens, waves them through. "Get her home safe." "Always," Do-won says. The window rises. The sedan pulls forward, leaving the checkpoint behind. In the rearview mirror, Minjun's eyes flick to Do-won's face, questioning. Do-won shakes his head once. "Not yet." They drive for 20 minutes through rain-washed streets before Suzan stirs. Her hand tightens on the backpack. Her head shifts against Do-won's shoulder, and he feels the exact moment consciousness returns, the sudden tension in her neck, the catch in her breathing. She doesn't move immediately. Her eyes open slowly, focusing on the unfamiliar leather interior, the rain beyond the windows, the crisp white fabric of the shoulder beneath her cheek. Then she bolts upright. "What? Where?" Her voice is rough with sleep and rising panic. She twists in the seat, taking in Minjun at the wheel, Do-won beside her, the strange car moving through an unfamiliar neighborhood. "This isn't my Uber. This isn't. Oh my God, who are you?" "You're safe," Do-won says. His voice is calm, measured. He doesn't move closer, doesn't crowd her. "You got into my car by mistake. You were exhausted. You fell asleep. By mistake?" Suzan's hand goes to her chest pocket, checking for her phone. It's there. She pulls it out with shaking fingers, sees 12 missed calls from her roommate, 3 from the hospital. The time reads 11:47 p.m. "I've been. How long have I been?" 40 minutes, Do-won says. "We passed a police checkpoint. You were sleeping. I didn't want to wake you during that." Suzan stares at him. Really looks at him for the first time. Sharp features, calculating eyes, the kind of stillness that speaks of absolute control. Everything about him screams danger, from the way he sits to the watchful intensity in his gaze. But he hasn't touched her, hasn't threatened her. And something in his face, something she can't quite name, makes her think he's telling the truth. "Where are we?" she asks. 10 minutes from Mercy General, Minjun says from the front seat, his accent thicker than Do-won's. "We've been circling. Boss said to stay close to the hospital until you woke up." "Boss." The word lands like ice water. Suzan's eyes snap back to Do-won. "Who are you?" "Someone who was in the wrong place at the wrong time." "Same as you." Do-won reaches into his jacket, slowly, letting her see the movement, and produces a business card. Simple, expensive cardstock. Just a name and a phone number. If you need anything. A real ride home. Compensation for the inconvenience. Suzan takes the card with numb fingers. The name means nothing to her. I just want to go home. Minjun will take you. Do-won nods to the driver. Your address. She shouldn't give it. Every instinct screams not to. But she's so tired, and the rain is so heavy, and the thought of waiting for another rideshare in the hospital parking lot makes her want to cry. She rattles off her address in Brookside, a modest neighborhood 30 minutes south. The sedan turns smoothly, heading in the right direction. Suzan clutches her backpack and stares out the window, hyper-aware of the man beside her. He doesn't speak again. Just sits in that unervingly still way, his hand resting near his mouth, watching the streets like he's cataloging every shadow. When they pull up to her apartment building, a weathered 4-story walk-up with a broken security light, Minjun gets out first, opens her door, holds an umbrella over her head. The gesture is so unexpectedly courteous that Suzan almost laughs. Thank you, she manages. For being. Careful going home alone this late, Do-won says from inside the car. His eyes meet hers through the open door. Not everyone is safe. The door closes. The sedan pulls away, taillights disappearing into the rain. Suzan stands on the sidewalk, soaked and shaking, the business card damp in her palm. She doesn't notice what's missing until she's inside her apartment, stripping off her wet scrubs. Her hospital ID badge is gone. The feeling starts on her second shift back. Suzan is restocking supplies in Trauma Bay 3 when the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. She turns quickly, but the hallway outside is empty except for an orderly pushing a gurney. She shakes it off. Returns to her inventory sheet. It happens again during her lunch break. She's in the cafeteria, exhausted and picking at a sad sandwich, when she feels eyes on her. She scans the room. Doctors, nurses, visitors. No one pays her any attention. By the 4th day, she knows she's not imagining it. Someone is watching her. She reports her missing ID badge to hospital security, gets a temporary replacement, tries to forget about the strange night in the sedan. But she can't. That man's face haunts her, the sharp intelligence in his eyes, the predatory stillness of his posture. And that word, boss. On Friday evening, as she's leaving through the staff entrance, she sees it. A black sedan idling across the street, engine running. Not the same car, this one is smaller, less expensive, but the driver is unmistakable. Minjun. He doesn't hide. When she stops dead on the sidewalk, he gets out of the car, raising one hand in a non-threatening gesture. He's wearing the same black suit, but his face looks tired, almost apologetic. Miss Harris, he calls across the street. Please. Just 5 minutes. Suzan should run. Should scream. Should do anything except cross that street. But her hero complex kicks in, that terrible, beautiful compulsion to help, and she finds herself walking toward him. Are you following me? She demands. Yes. Minjun doesn't lie. Boss's orders. Why? He wants to speak with you. Privately. Safely. Minjun gestures to the sedan. He's waiting at a cafe 3 blocks from here. Public place. Lots of witnesses. You can leave whenever you want. And if I say no? Minjun's expression softens. Then I drive away and you never see either of us again. But boss said to tell you. He pauses, choosing his words carefully. He said to tell you he knew your kindness before you knew his car. He said you'd understand. Suzan's breath catches. What does that mean? He didn't explain. He just said you'd know. She doesn't. But something in the phrasing tugs at her memory. Some patient, some face in the endless blur of suffering she tends to every day. She should walk away. This is how horror stories begin. But she gets in the car. The cafe is exactly as Minjun promised. Brightly lit, crowded, a trendy spot near the university where students huddle over laptops and young professionals nurse overpriced lattes. Do-won sits at a corner table, positioned so he can see both entrances. He's wearing a dark gray suit tonight, no tie, looking like a successful businessman rather than whatever he really is. He stands when Suzan approaches, pulls out her chair, waits until she's settled before sitting down himself. "Thank you for coming," he says. "I'm not sure I had a choice," Suzan replies, sharper than she intends. "Your driver's been following me for days." "Making sure you were safe," Do-won corrects gently. "There's a difference. Safe from what?" "From being connected to me." He signals the waitress, orders 2 coffees without asking what Suzan wants. When they arrive, he slides one across to her. "I apologize for the surveillance. But after that night in my car, after the checkpoint, I needed to know if anyone came asking about you. If you became a liability." "A liability?" Suzan's hands tighten around the warm cup. "You mean a witness?" "I mean someone who could be hurt because of a 30-second interaction with me." Do-won's voice is steady, factual. "You got into my car by accident. That shouldn't cost you anything. Then why are you here? Why not just disappear like you said?" Do-won is quiet for a long moment. He takes a slow sip of coffee, his eyes never leaving her face. 3 months ago, my mother was admitted to Mercy General. Pancreatic cancer, late stage. She was in the ICU for 2 weeks before she died. Suzan's breath stops. Memory crashes over her. A small Korean woman with silver hair and fierce eyes, fighting so hard against the pain, so scared of dying alone. The family had money, that much was obvious from the private room and the expensive floral arrangements. But the woman herself had been kind, grateful. And there had been a night nurse who stayed past her shift, who held the woman's hand during the worst of the morphine nightmares. "Mrs. Kang," Suzan whispers. "She spoke about you," Do-won says quietly. "Called you her angel in Maroon. Said you made her feel less afraid." His jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. "She died believing there was still kindness in the world because of you." Tears burn Suzan's eyes. She blinks them back. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Don't be sorry. Be willing to help me." "Help you with what?" Do-won leans forward slightly. "I run a private medical clinic. Unofficial. It serves people who can't or won't go to hospitals, immigrants without documentation, people with warrants, individuals who can't afford traditional care. The doctors I employ are skilled but cautious. They need someone who leads by example. Someone brave." "You mean someone stupid enough to treat criminals," Suzan says flatly. "I mean someone who sees people, not crimes." Do-won's eyes are intense now, burning with something like conviction. "You treated my mother like she mattered. Not because of what I could pay you, but because that's who you are. That's what I need. I have a job. A job that's killing you. I've watched you leave that hospital, Miss Harris. You're exhausted every single shift. You work doubles, triples. You give everything and get nothing back. I get to save lives. You could save different lives. Lives that matter just as much, even if society disagrees. Do-won slides a folder across the table. Inside are photographs of the clinic, a clean, well-equipped facility that looks nothing like the back-alley operation she imagined. Medical equipment, exam rooms, a small surgical suite. The pay is triple what Mercy General gives you. Your own hours. Autonomy in treatment decisions. Suzan stares at the photos. At the pristine equipment, the obvious care that went into creating a space for healing. What's the catch? You don't ask questions about the patients. You treat them and let them leave. And you accept that the man funding this clinic isn't a good person. Are you a good person? Do-won's smile is small, bitter. No. But I'm trying to build something good anyway. Maybe that counts for something. Suzan should say no. Should walk out of this cafe and never look back. But she sees Mrs. Kang's face in her memory, feels the ghost of that woman's hand clutching hers, remembers the gratitude in her eyes. I need to think about it, she says. Take your time. Do-won slides her hospital ID badge across the table. I've been keeping this safe for you. She takes it with trembling fingers. How do I contact you? You already have my card. When you're ready, call. Or don't. Either way, Minjun stops following you as of tonight. He stands, adjusts his jacket. Thank you for the coffee, Miss Harris. He's gone before she can respond, melting into the evening crowd like smoke. Suzan sits alone with 2 coffee cups and a folder full of photographs, her heart hammering against her ribs. 3 days later, she makes the call. The clinic is in a converted warehouse in the industrial district, tucked between a legitimate shipping company and an auto body shop that looks like it hasn't repaired a car in years. The exterior is deliberately unremarkable. Gray concrete, small windows, a single unmarked door. Inside is a different world. The reception area is small but immaculate, with comfortable seating and soft lighting that makes it feel like a high-end private practice rather than an underground operation. A young woman at the desk greets Suzan with a warm smile and a clipboard. Miss Harris? We've been expecting you. Mr. Kang is in the back. Suzan signs in, just her first name, no last name required, and follows a short hallway lined with exam rooms. Each one she passes is equipped with modern diagnostic tools, clean linens, locked medication cabinets. Whatever she expected, this wasn't it. Do-won is in the main treatment area, speaking in rapid Korean to a doctor in scrubs. When he sees Suzan, he dismisses the doctor with a nod and approaches. You came, he says. I said I'd think about it. I thought about it. And? Show me how this works. 1 shift. If I don't like what I see, I walk away. No strings. Do-won's smile is approving. Fair terms. Come with me. He gives her the tour personally, explaining the clinic's operation with the efficiency of a man who built it from nothing. The clinic operates 4 nights a week, staffed by rotating doctors and nurses who are paid extremely well for their silence. Patients come through referrals only, word of mouth from Do-won's network. They're treated, given medication, and sent home. No records are kept beyond basic inventory for supplies. What kind of injuries do you see? Suzan asks as they pass through the surgical suite. Stab wounds. Gunshots. Broken bones. Occasionally overdoses, though we try to refer those cases to legitimate ERs when possible. Do-won's voice is clinical, detached. Nothing you haven't seen before at Mercy General. Except these patients are criminals. Some are. Some are just desperate. Do-won stops in front of a bulletin board covered with thank you notes, crayon drawings from children, handwritten letters in multiple languages, photographs of families. The woman who wrote this one was undocumented. Her son had appendicitis. No hospital would take them without insurance. We removed his appendix, saved his life. Is she a criminal? Suzan reads the note, written in halting English. You are angels. Thank you for my boy. And the gunshot wounds? She asks quietly. What about those patients? Some deserve them. Some don't. Your job isn't to judge. Just to heal. That's not how medicine works. We have ethical obligations. Your ethical obligation is to the patient in front of you, Do-won interrupts, his voice firm. Not to the circumstances that brought them there. You know this. You've lived it. He's right, and she hates that he's right. She became a nurse to help people, not to gatekeep suffering based on arbitrary moral lines. Her first shift starts that night. The patients come in waves. A young man with a knife wound in his side, stitched up in 20 minutes. An older woman with pneumonia who couldn't afford her medications, given antibiotics and an inhaler. A teenager with a clearly broken wrist, too scared to go to the hospital because his father beat him and would find out. Suzan works with steady hands and a quiet mind, falling into the rhythm she knows so well. Do-won watches from a distance, never interfering, just present. When she needs supplies, they appear. When she has questions about a patient's history, he provides answers without revealing sources. Around 2 a.m., when the clinic finally quiets, Do-won appears with 2 containers of food from a nearby Korean restaurant. You need to eat, he says, setting them on the break room table. Suzan realizes she's starving. She accepts the food gratefully, too tired to question where it came from or why he's being kind. They eat in silence for a while, the only sounds the quiet hum of the building and the distant traffic outside. Why did you really build this place? Suzan asks eventually. Do-won sets down his chopsticks. My mother got sick because she ignored symptoms for years. She was undocumented for a long time, afraid of deportation, afraid of debt. By the time she finally went to a hospital, it was too late. I had money by then. I could afford the best care. But I couldn't buy her more time. So this is penance. This is a memorial. Do-won's voice is quiet but fierce. She believed in second chances, in helping people who fell through the cracks. She would have loved this place, even though it's funded by crime. She never asked where my money came from. Maybe she knew. Maybe she didn't want to know. He meets Suzan's eyes. I can't undo what I am. But I can use what I have to do something she'd approve of. Suzan is quiet for a long moment, processing. What happens if I keep working here? You work when you want. You treat who needs treating. And you accept that this puts you in my world, whether you like it or not. Will I be safe? From my people? Yes. From my enemies. Do-won's expression hardens. I'll do everything in my power to make sure you are. But I can't promise that power is enough. It's the most honest thing he's said to her. Suzan appreciates it more than any reassurance. I'll stay, she decides. But I have conditions. Name them. I won't treat anyone who's actively hurting someone else. If someone comes in fresh from committing violence, I walk away. And if I ever feel like this place is doing more harm than good, I leave. No questions asked. Do-won extends his hand. Deal. Suzan shakes it. His grip is firm, warm. For the first time since she fell asleep in his car, she doesn't feel afraid. The weeks blur together in a strange new rhythm. 3 nights a week at the clinic, the rest of her time spent sleeping, recovering, trying to maintain some semblance of her old life. She keeps her job at Mercy General, reduced hours, just enough to maintain her license and keep questions at bay. The clinic patients become familiar. The teenager with the broken wrist returns for a follow-up, his arm healing well, his eyes less fearful. The undocumented mother brings her son for a checkup, the boy healthy and laughing. Even the criminals, and there are criminals, treat Suzan with a respect that borders on reverence. Word spreads in Do-won's world. The clinic has an angel in Maroon. Do-won himself remains a constant, quiet presence. He's there most nights, ostensibly overseeing operations but often just watching. Watching Suzan work, watching her interact with patients, watching her navigate the gray zones of medical ethics with a grace he clearly admires. They don't talk much during shifts. She's too busy, he's too careful. But after, when the clinic empties and the city sleeps, they find themselves in that break room together. Sharing meals. Trading stories. Building something that feels dangerously close to trust. One night, after a particularly brutal shift involving a stabbing victim who coded twice before Suzan brought him back, Do-won pours her a glass of expensive whiskey. You don't drink on shift, he says, but shift's over. And you've earned this. Suzan accepts the glass with shaking hands. The whiskey burns going down, but it steadies her. He's going to live? Because of you. The doctors said it was impossible. You did it anyway. I just did my job. Your job was to try. You exceeded that. Do-won sits across from her, his own glass untouched. Why do you do this? Really? It's not the money. You give half your paycheck to charity. It's not the excitement. You hate the violence. So why? Suzan stares into her whiskey. Because someone has to. Because if I can help and I don't, then I'm complicit in their suffering. And I can't. Her voice cracks. I can't live with that. Even when it costs you? Especially then. Do-won is quiet for a long time. When he finally speaks, his voice is softer than she's ever heard it. My mother would have loved you. I wish I could have saved her. You did. Just not the way you think. He stands, moves to the window overlooking the dark street. I was different before she got sick. Harder. I made decisions that prioritized power over people. She hated that. Fought with me about it until she couldn't fight anymore. What changed? She asked me on her last night what I would leave behind. What would matter when I was gone? Do-won's reflection in the window is pensive, almost vulnerable. I didn't have an answer. Everything I'd built was about taking, controlling, dominating. There was nothing good in it. This clinic is good. This clinic is a start. He turns to face her. But it's not enough. I've been thinking about restructuring. Moving resources away from the violent enterprises, investing in legitimate businesses that can still serve my community. Using the network I've built for protection rather than exploitation. That's a dangerous transition, Suzan says carefully. Your rivals won't like it. Your own people might not follow. I know. But staying the same isn't an option anymore. Not when I see what you do every night. Not when I remember what my mother believed was possible. His eyes are intense, burning with something like hope.
Will you help me?
I'm a nurse, not a criminal consultant. You're my conscience, Do-won says simply. You show me what's worth protecting. That's more valuable than any strategy. Suzan's heart hammers in her chest. This is the moment she should walk away. The moment she should recognize that she's getting too close, too invested, too tangled in a world that could destroy her. Instead, she says, "Okay." Do-won's smile is small but genuine. "Okay." They talk until dawn, mapping out possibilities and pitfalls, debating ethics and economics, building a vision of something better. When Suzan finally drives home as the sun rises, she feels something she hasn't felt in years, purpose beyond survival. She doesn't see the car following her at a distance, black and unmarked. She doesn't notice the message spray-painted on the clinic's back door, discovered by Min-jun 2 hours later. She doesn't know that Do-won's enemies are watching, waiting, planning their response to his betrayal of the old ways. Not yet. The message is simple, brutal. Traitors bleed. Min-jun finds it when he arrives to open the clinic for the evening shift. He photographs it immediately, sends it to Do-won, then calls a cleaning crew to remove it before any patients see. Do-won arrives 20 minutes later, his face a mask of controlled fury. He studies the faint paint residue on the door, the sloppy lettering that suggests haste and anger rather than careful planning. "The Chongsan crew," Min-jun says quietly. "Has to be. They've been pushing back against the transition." "Or the Russians. They're losing the protection racket revenue." Do-won's jaw tightens. Increase security. 2 guards on the clinic at all times, even during closed hours. And Suzan doesn't work here until we identify the threat. She won't like that. She doesn't have a choice. Do-won pulls out his phone, starts to call her, then stops. "No. I'll tell her in person. Tonight, before her shift." But Suzan is already on her way to the clinic when Do-won's call comes through. She sees his name on her screen, almost answers, then decides to just talk to him when she arrives. She's only 10 minutes away. The parking lot behind the clinic is empty except for Min-jun's sedan and one other car she doesn't recognize. She parks, grabs her bag, heads for the employee entrance. The door opens before she reaches it. Do-won stands in the doorway, backlit by the clinic's fluorescent lights. "You can't be here tonight." "What? Why?" "There was a threat. Someone knows about the restructuring, and they're not happy." He steps outside, closing the door behind him. "It's not safe for you to work here until we—" The gunshot cracks through the air like thunder. Do-won moves faster than thought, tackling Suzan to the ground as bullets tear through the space where she was standing. The parking lot erupts in chaos. More gunshots, shouting, the squeal of tires. Do-won covers Suzan's body with his own, shielding her as concrete chips explode around them. Min-jun appears in the doorway, gun drawn, returning fire. His shots are precise, controlled. One of the attackers goes down. Another retreats behind a dumpster. "Get her inside," Min-jun shouts. Do-won hauls Suzan to her feet, half dragging her toward the clinic entrance. She's too stunned to process what's happening, too shocked to do anything but run. They crash through the door together, and Min-jun slams it shut behind them, engaging the deadbolt. Outside, an engine roars. Tires scream. Then silence. Suzan is shaking so hard her teeth chatter. Do-won's hands are on her shoulders, his eyes scanning her for injuries. "Are you hurt?" "Suzan, look at me. Are you hurt?" "And no." I don't think. She looks down at herself, checking frantically for blood.
Nothing. I'm okay. I'm okay. Minjun.
Do-won's voice is sharp.
Status. Clear. They're gone.
Minjun appears, breathing hard, a dark stain spreading across his left shoulder.
Chongsan crew. I recognized the shooter. You're hit. It's nothing. It's not nothing.
Suzan's training kicks in, overriding her terror. She crosses to Minjun, gently but firmly moving his hand away from the wound. The bullet grazed his shoulder, painful, bleeding heavily, but not life-threatening.
Sit down. Now.
She works on autopilot, gathering supplies, cutting away Minjun's jacket and shirt, cleaning and dressing the wound with steady hands. Do-won watches silently, his phone pressed to his ear, speaking in rapid Korean to someone on the other end. When Suzan finishes bandaging Minjun, she turns to Do-won.
What the hell was that?
A message.
They want me to know they can reach me anywhere.
Anyone connected to me is a target. His voice is flat, dangerous.
I'm sorry. I should have kept you away from this. You tried. I didn't listen.
Suzan's hands are still shaking, but her voice is steady.
What happens now? Now you leave. Tonight. I'll arrange protection, a safe place. No. Suzan. No.
She steps closer to him, fury and fear warring in her chest. You don't get to pull me into your world, show me something worth fighting for, and then push me out the second it gets dangerous.
I knew the risks. I chose to stay.
That doesn't change. It changes when people are shooting at you. People shoot at me every day in the ER. Suzan's voice cracks. Gang violence, domestic abuse, addicts having psychotic breaks. Do you think Mercy General is safe? At least here, I know what I'm fighting for.
At least here, I'm not alone.
Do-won stares at her, something like pain flickering across his carefully controlled features.
I can't lose you. Not like this.
The admission hangs in the air between them, raw and unguarded. Suzan's breath catches. When did this become about more than medical ethics and second chances? When did she start seeing Do-won as something other than a criminal playing at redemption? Then don't push me away, she says quietly.
Let me help. Let me stay. Do-won closes his eyes.
When he opens them, the decision is made. We leave the clinic. It's compromised. I have a safe house across town. Fortified, secure.
We regroup there. Figure out our next move. What about the patients?
We'll set up a referral system, redirect them to other resources. But the clinic closes until this is resolved. He turns to Minjun.
Can you drive? Yes, boss. Then let's move. Now.
They evacuate quickly, gathering essential supplies and equipment. Do-won makes calls as they work, orchestrating something complex and invisible. By the time they leave through the back entrance, 2 additional cars have arrived. Security, silent men with watchful eyes who fall into formation around them. The safe house is in a quiet residential neighborhood, an unremarkable 2-story home that looks like it belongs to a young family. Inside, it's transformed, reinforced doors, security cameras, a fully equipped medical room in what was probably once a dining area.
This was my mother's house, Do-won explains as they enter.
She left it to me when she died. I've been using it as a backup location. Suzan can see traces of the woman she remembers. Family photos on the walls, Korean pottery on the shelves, a warmth to the space that contradicts its current purpose.
It makes her chest ache. They settle in as night falls. Minjun takes first watch. The security team disperses around the property. Do-won and Suzan end up in the medical room, ostensibly checking supplies but really just existing in the same space, processing what happened. They'll come after me directly next, Do-won says quietly. The message was clear. They're escalating. Then we need a plan. We need you safe. That's the plan. Do-won. Suzan crosses to him, takes his hands in hers. They're cold, tense. I'm not leaving. So instead of fighting me on that, tell me what we're actually up against. He looks at their joined hands for a long moment. Then, slowly, he begins to explain. The Chongsan crew is a rival organization, traditional and brutal, opposed to Do-won's moves toward legitimacy. They see his transition as weakness, betrayal of the old codes. They've been consolidating power, forging alliances with other groups who feel threatened by Do-won's changes. My second-in-command, Tae-hyun, has been acting as liaison with these groups, Do-won says. Supposedly keeping the peace, managing the transition. But I've been getting reports that he's playing both sides. Feeding information to Chongsan, positioning himself to take over if I'm eliminated. You think he set up tonight's attack? I think he made sure Chongsan knew when and where to find you. Which means, Do-won's phone rings, cutting him off. He glances at the screen, and his expression goes cold. Tae-hyun. Calling to check if I survived. Don't answer it, Suzan says instinctively. I have to. If I don't, he'll know we're suspicious. Do-won answers, switching to Korean. The conversation is brief, his voice neutral, giving nothing away. When he hangs up, his jaw is tight. He wants to meet. Tomorrow night, the old warehouse on Pier 17. Says he has intelligence about who ordered the hit. It's a trap. Probably. But it's also an opportunity. Do-won's eyes are calculating now, strategic. If Tae-hyun is behind this, he'll make a move at that meeting. I can be ready. Or you could not go. Could disappear, start over somewhere else. Running makes me weak. Weakness invites more attacks. Do-won's voice is firm. I have to face this. End it. But you stay here. With Minjun and the security team. If things go wrong. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. Do-won, listen to me. Suzan grips his hands tighter. If this is a trap, if there's fighting, you're going to need medical support immediately. Minutes matter with gunshot wounds. If you're injured and I'm across town, you could die before help arrives. Better me than you. That's not your choice to make. Her voice is fierce now, unyielding. You brought me into this world. You showed me what we're building together. I won't sit in safety while you risk everything. That's not who I am. You know that. Do-won stares at her, conflicted and clearly frustrated. Then, slowly, he nods. You stay in the car. Armed guards with you at all times. At the first sign of trouble, you leave. Those are my terms. Deal. Suzan. His voice drops, becomes something softer and more vulnerable. If something happens to me, nothing's going to happen to you. I won't let it. He almost smiles. That's not how it works. It is now. They stand close together in the dim medical room, hands still intertwined, the weight of tomorrow's danger settling over them like a shroud. Suzan knows she should be terrified. She knows this is insane.
But she also knows she's exactly where she needs to be. Pier 17 is abandoned, a graveyard of rusted shipping containers and skeletal cranes silhouetted against the night sky. Do-won's convoy arrives precisely on time. 3 cars, including the one carrying Suzan and 2 armed guards. They park at a distance, engines running, ready for a quick exit. Do-won and Min-jun approach the designated warehouse on foot. Suzan watches through the tinted window, her heart hammering so hard she can feel it in her throat. The guards beside her are tense, hands near their weapons, eyes scanning every shadow. Inside the warehouse, Do-won finds Tae-hyun waiting with a small group of men. The conversation starts civil, professional. Suzan can't hear the words, but she can read body language, the stiffness in Do-won's posture, the false casualness of Tae-hyun's gestures. Then everything happens at once. Tae-hyun steps back. His men draw weapons. Additional figures emerge from behind shipping containers. Chongsan crew, a dozen of them, heavily armed. Min-jun moves first, shoving Do-won behind a metal crate as gunfire erupts. The warehouse becomes a war zone, muzzle flashes lighting up the darkness, bullets ricocheting off steel. "Go!" one of Suzan's guards shouts, hitting the gas. "We have to." "No." Suzan lunges forward, grabbing his shoulder. "He's still in there. We can't." An explosion rocks the warehouse. Fire blooms through the entrance, and figures come running out. Chongsan crew, retreating. But no Do-won. No Min-jun. "I'm going in," Suzan says. "Ma'am, you can't. I'm a nurse. If they're alive, they need me now." She grabs her medical bag, throws open the door. "Stay here or come with me, but I'm going." The guards exchange glances, then follow. Inside the warehouse, smoke chokes the air. Suzan pulls her shirt over her mouth, moving toward the sound of labored breathing. She finds Min-jun first, pinned under debris, his leg bent at a wrong angle. He's conscious, clutching a gun, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. "Do-won," he gasps. "They took him. Tae-hyun, betrayed." "Where?" "West exit. 2 minutes ago." Min-jun tries to stand, collapses with a cry of pain. "You have to get help." "I am help." Suzan kneels beside him, assessing quickly. Broken leg, possible concussion, but stable. "You." She points to one of the guards. "Stay with him. Keep pressure on any bleeding. You, come with me." She runs deeper into the warehouse, following the trail of blood droplets on the concrete. The west exit leads to a loading dock where a black van is pulling away, tires screeching. But Do-won isn't in the van. He's on the ground beside the dock, clutching his side, blood pooling beneath him. Tae-hyun stands over him with a gun, speaking rapidly in Korean. Suzan doesn't understand the words, but she understands the intent. Tae-hyun is explaining why this had to happen. Why Do-won's vision of a different future was impossible. The guard beside Suzan raises his weapon. "Don't move." Tae-hyun spins, fires twice. The guard goes down. Tae-hyun turns the gun towards Suzan, and Do-won lunges from the ground, tackling Tae-hyun's legs. They go down in a tangle of limbs. The gun skitters across the pavement. Do-won is slower, weaker, bleeding out, but he fights with desperate fury. Suzan runs forward, grabs the gun, aims it with shaking hands. "Stop. Both of you, stop." Tae-hyun freezes. Do-won doesn't. He drives his fist into Tae-hyun's face once, twice, until the other man goes limp.
Then Do-won collapses beside him, breathing in ragged gasps. Suzan drops the gun and falls to her knees at Do-won's side. The wound in his abdomen is bad, deep, bleeding arterially. He needs a hospital. He needs surgery. He needs safe house. Do-won manages. Can't. Hospital. Questions. You'll die. Trust you. His hand finds hers, slick with blood. Please. It's insane. It's impossible. But Suzan sees the certainty in his eyes, and she makes a choice. Help me get him to the car, she orders the remaining conscious guard. And call ahead to the safe house. I need every piece of medical equipment we have ready to go. They move Do-won as carefully as possible, every second feeling like an eternity. He's fading, his skin pale and clammy, his breathing shallow. Suzan keeps pressure on the wound with one hand and holds his hand with the other, talking to him constantly. Stay with me. Do you hear me? Stay with me. Think about the clinic. Think about what we're building. You don't get to die before we finish it. Do-won. Do-won. His eyes flutter open. Suzan. I'm here. I'm right here. Just hold on. The drive to the safe house is a blur. Suzan works in the back seat, starting in 4-line, administering fluids, monitoring vitals. Do-won drifts in and out of consciousness, his hand never letting go of hers. When they arrive, the medical room is prepared exactly as she requested. Suzan and the remaining guard carry Do-won inside, transfer him to the table. She scrubs quickly, pulls on gloves, lays out instruments with hands that are finally, blessedly steady. This is what she knows. This is what she does. People bleed, and she stops it. The bullet is lodged deep, but she finds it after 20 minutes of careful dissection. Removes it. Repairs the damaged blood vessel. Sutures layer by layer, checking for bleeds, monitoring his vitals on the portable monitor. Hours pass. The sun rises. Do-won's heartbeat stays steady on the monitor, strong and stubborn. When Suzan finally steps back, stripping off her bloody gloves, she's swaying on her feet. The guard catches her elbow. He's stable, she says. He'll live. Then she sits down on the floor and starts to cry. Do-won wakes 3 days later. Suzan is dozing in a chair beside his bed when she hears his breathing change. Her eyes snap open, and she's at his side instantly, checking his pupils, his pulse, his surgical site. Hey, she says softly. Welcome back. Did I die? His voice is rough, barely above a whisper. Not even close. I wouldn't let you. A faint smile crosses his lips. Stubborn. You're one to talk. She adjusts his fore, giving him a bit more pain medication. Taehyun. Arrested. Min-jun made sure of it before he passed out. Turns out betraying your boss and attempting murder is frowned upon, even in our world. Do-won tries to sit up, winces, accepts her help. The others. Scattered. Chongsan crew lost half their leadership in the raid that followed. The ones who survived are negotiating surrender terms with your people. My people. Do-won's laugh is bitter. How many did I lose? 4 injured, including you and Min-jun. No deaths on our side. Suzan sits on the edge of the bed, careful not to jostle him. You protected them. Even while being betrayed, you protected them. And you protected me. His hand finds hers, squeezes weakly. Thank you. I told you I wouldn't leave. I meant it. They sit in silence for a while,
just breathing together, alive together. Outside the window, the city moves on, indifferent to their small victory.
What happens now?
Suzan asks eventually.
Now I rebuild, but differently this time.
Do-won's eyes are clear, determined despite his weakness. The restructuring moves forward. Anyone who wants to follow the old ways can leave. The rest, we build something better.
And the clinic?
We reopen it. Bigger.
Better.
A real community health center, funded through legitimate businesses.
He turns his head to look at her. If you'll still help.
Do-won, I performed surgery on you in a safe house with veterinary-grade equipment.
I think we're past the point of me walking away. You could though.
After this. After seeing what my world really is.
Suzan thinks about that. About the violence and the betrayal, the gunfire and the blood.
About everything she's seen and survived. Then she thinks about Mrs. Kang's face. About the patients at the clinic who have nowhere else to go.
About the good that can be built from the ruins of something dark. I could, she agrees. But I won't, because you were right about something. What's that?
You're not a good person, but you're trying to build something good anyway. She smiles. And maybe that counts for something. Do-won's answering smile is soft, genuine. Stay with me. Not just as my nurse. As my partner.
Help me build this new world.
Partner in what? Crime or redemption?
Both.
Neither.
Whatever we decide it becomes.
Suzan leans down, presses a gentle kiss to his forehead.
Then I'm in. But you have to promise me something. Anything.
No more getting shot.
My heart can't take it. Deal.
Outside, the city wakes to a new day. Inside the safe house that was once a mother's home, two people who shouldn't have found each other begin planning a future that shouldn't be possible. But they'll build it anyway. Because some debts are paid in kindness. Some foundations are built on second chances. And some loves are worth fighting for, even in the darkest corners of the world. 6 months later, the Community Health Center opens its doors. It's housed in a renovated building in the neighborhood where Do-won grew up, its walls painted in warm colors, its waiting room filled with comfortable furniture and toys for children. The staff is a mix of legitimate medical professionals and former underground clinic workers, all dedicated to serving anyone who walks through the door, no questions asked, no judgments made. Suzan cuts the ribbon at the opening ceremony, wearing her maroon scrubs like armor. Do-won stands beside her in a sharp suit, his hand resting lightly on her lower back. Min-jun, walking with a slight limp but otherwise recovered, manages security with a team of guards who now protect people instead of threatening them. The first patients file in, families, individuals, the scared and the sick and the hopeful. Suzan greets each one with a warm smile, ushering them toward exam rooms where healing waits.
This is her victory. Their victory.
A life built from the ruins of the old ways, stronger and better for having been broken first. Do-won watches her work with something like reverence in his eyes. His mother would have loved this place. Would have loved the woman who made it possible. And maybe, he thinks, that's redemption enough. The angel in maroon smiles at her next patient, and the work begins again. The camera fades from the final scene to a soft focus image of rain streaking down a car window at night, city lights blurred in the background, mirroring the iconic opening moment.
Sometimes the wrong turn leads you exactly where you need to be. Suzan Harris got into the wrong car that rainy night, but she found her purpose in the most unexpected place. beside a man who was trying to build redemption from the ashes of his past. Their story reminds us that healing doesn't always happen in sterile hallways under fluorescent lights. Sometimes it happens in the gray zones, in the spaces between right and wrong, where second chances are given and new foundations are built. From a chance encounter in the rain to a partnership that changed two worlds, Suzan and Do-won proved that love, courage, and compassion can transform even the darkest corners into something beautiful. Beat pause. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to see more tales of unexpected love, redemption, and the courage to choose hope over fear. And I want to hear from you. Comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I'll be replying to as many of you as I can because I love knowing how far these stories travel and whose hearts they touch. Are you Team Suzan's fearless compassion or Team Do-won's dangerous devotion? Let me know in the comments. Softer, more intimate. Remember, sometimes the people who